Good afternoon. I'm Angeline Patton from Michigan State University, Office of Financial Aid. Our group had some interesting conversations, so I got voluntold to do this part. We talked about how to get lawmakers to help protect financial aid, and what we could do is, instead of actually just going out to the lawmakers, we talked about getting into the counties and getting into the underserved areas, and the county that has that underserved area, combining them with the counties that is adjoint to that county to create something for students that are going into vet school that we can guarantee loan forgiveness and even offer them a place to stay and guarantee work after they complete their degree. But we'd have to work with the university to make sure that this could happen. So what we're doing is trying to get the counties to buy in. We could actually lobby for a solution, get back to loan forgiveness. I know we talked earlier about maybe lobbying for subsidized loan instead of unsub. Where that went, no one knows. And also we talked about building a coalition in the end. So if we could build a coalition together and get this done, I think it's all groups would have to send the message, and we'd have to send the same message, because we don't want to just go into underserved areas. We want to eventually go into all areas. So we wanted to start with the underserved areas, so maybe have a pilot program to see if it's going to work and then go from there.
Good afternoon. I'm Heather Case. I'm the Executive Director of the National Board of Veterinary Medical Examiners. I'm a preventive medicine veterinarian, and so I'm a little bit biased when we talk about other career opportunities. And I think we've heard some great comments already about this particular topic. One of the things that we talked about in our group was the fact that unlike when my parents were in the workforce or entering the workforce, now career transition is a very common thing that happens, maybe every 5 or 10 years. I think that, I don't know the statistics, but the millennials that are entering the workforce are, likely to have many different jobs throughout the course of their career. And so from a veterinarian perspective, considering opportunities as opposed to alternative career paths, that we would think of these areas as the new frontier, if you will, for income generating for veterinary medicine. And so building on what was discussed this morning, creating a program, making it, from the very beginning of pre-veterinary education, the awareness of these different, again, opportunities outside of traditional clinical practice. We also included the third option. We sort of lumped that into the discussion of messaging. So I think number 3 was talking about, I think it's down a little bit further, isn't it? Yeah. So again, we lumped the idea of having a guidebook for pre-vet counselors and talking about, again, how are we maximizing the potential in terms of career choices at a very early stage in career planning. And so we lumped the career guidebook in with a general overview or a program, if you will, for looking at all of the opportunities in veterinary medicine.
I'm Lori Teller. I'm in small animal practice in Houston, Texas, and I serve on the AVMA Board of Directors. We also looked at the 7-year DVM models. We really think that there needs to be some standardization of the prereqs across the board. You really don't need to have a bachelor's degree to enter into a DVM curriculum. Some schools make that a requirement, some do not. Some you just need to get your prereqs and get in. But even those prereqs tend to vary across the board, and there could be improvement by standardizing some of those prerequisites. There also needs to be some good efficiencies in teaching in the preclinical sciences during the first year of vet school, or as the students brought up, even having those done as some of the undergrad years. I really did not need to learn the Krebs cycle again during my first year of vet school. It has never been used in my professional career. And as the student said, sometimes the faculty needs to let go. We need to learn concepts, and we need to learn how to think. We don't need to be memorizing minutia like that. We also need to have better outreach at the middle school, high school level, including FFA, scouts, things like that. so that they also have the idea that you can go to vet school and you can meet the prereqs without necessarily having to get a bachelor's degree before you even apply. We need to educate our current colleagues that this can be beneficial to the profession, that it is not going to harm the profession. There is good data out of schools across the pond in the UK, Australia, New Zealand, all of which have a shorter pathway to becoming a DVM, and those practitioners are also very successful, which of course ultimately will boil down to reviewing and modifying admission criteria.
We talked about financial products. The number one thing is what came out of our group is we need more financial literacy for our students. We also need to have a uniform financial product to educate them before they actually come to school and educate them why they are attending school. And also we wanted to talk about the second part that Lance wanted to go over with you.
Well, we had another idea that came out of this, and it wasn't on the sheet ahead of time, but it's a financial product that we kind of threw around for a few minutes. And what we have on one hand is a group of older veterinarians that are successful, that are looking to invest liquid assets, that they're struggling with bond markets and things like that right now. On the other hand, we have a group of students and young veterinarians that are looking for access to cheaper financial capital. On one hand, we have a group of veterinarians that wants to invest in their profession and move that forward. On the other hand, we have a fairly a good risk set of students. Is there a product that we could design that could merge those two, lender and borrower scenario? Could it go through a lumped fund? There's many things to work out, and we do not want to encourage more borrowing per se, but maybe we can shave a few percentage points off of what these students and young veterinarians are borrowing. So just another idea that came out of our group as a financial product that maybe we could explore.
And one of the recommendations was to market this a little bit more. Deal with the social media, utilize the social media for our advantages to help with financial literacy. And also we talked about having a credit card that the AVMA would actually help administrate but not be in charge of, okay? And also have them contact the financial planner, but we do it with certified financial planners, so they're not getting bombarded with all these people trying to sell them certain things that they can't afford at the time they're in medical school. And also we wanted to make sure that these little literacy programs were uniform across the board, that everyone was getting the same message at the same time, so students were understanding what they were getting into, what the options were and what their repayment options are, so they're not lost, and that they know this is an investment and it could be a good investment in the end.
We were also tasked at looking at number 6 there, which is minimizing the cost of borrowing. I think it probably should say minimize borrowing, but we looked at all the schools out there and what is taught in the curriculum, pre-veterinary and during the veterinary curriculum. And again, comes back to very weak financial literacy among students and young graduates. So we looked at, is there a way that we can standardize this financial literacy model and among all the veterinary schools? Just like Paul talked about, when you look at aggregating all this data, it's very difficult, it's not standardized, and it's hard to compare. So one thing that we can do moving forward almost immediately is to develop a system of standardizing and moving that data. On the second hand, we can also talk about standardizing a set of financial literacy tools that need to be taught to students and young graduates. And so another thought there is just a standardization. It was talked about in our room. Is this something that the Council of Education could do? Could it be an accreditation standard? And that's something that's going to take some time, but it's something that we can do right now before the Council of Education acts. So you want to talk about practice readiness? Or? Yeah. Okay.
The last one we had was practice readiness and internships. One thing that we realized really is not out there, there's really no oversight of internships. So there's really no good guidelines to help students decide if they should even go into an internship. So we need some kind of guidelines or a decision-making matrix for both students and faculty to determine if an internship is right for the student and if they're entering it for the right reasons. Furthermore, it impacts their student debt if they do pursue an internship and or residency. They need to know what the economic impact of that is, and if they still pursue it, then what further things do they need to do to help minimize that impact? So lots of improvement in communication there, and then I will give it back to Lance to discuss another alternative.
So the last point that we talked about there was the second thing, and it was an alternative to your standard first-year associate's contract, and the other option is an internship in that first year after graduation. There is a third alternative, a hybrid out there, which is a organized and standardized mentorship program for that first year of school, or that first year out of school. This a program that would be a great test plot is already built. It's on the web. Mark Russick talked about it this morning. It's at mentorship.aha.org. It's a collaboration between Vet Partners and AHA, and there's 351 skill sets that we think thousands of man hours, volunteer hours went into creating this tool. It's a mobile responsive and things like that the students in their fourth year can use right now as a self-evaluation tool. There's a mentor and mentee relationship, and it's designed as a conversation starter between that employer and that first-year graduate to fill those gaps between communication, surgical skills, medical skills in that first year out. So to make more productive veterinarians faster, it's built out. There is a KPI tool on that as well, where the practice can enter their KPIs, compare it to AHA data as far as the national averages, and then look at that individual first-year veterinarian and see where they're stacking up KPI-wise. The point is it's built, it's on the internet now, and it's just it's a function of distributing that knowledge and getting it out there as soon as possible.
Would you like to share? This was the association groups. I see Mary Beth's hand up. Just be patient, Mary Beth. Are you standing already? Oh, no, you're not. Sorry.
Give him hell, Mary Beth.
I know, Mary Beth.
Thank you, Ken.
You're welcome.
One of the things I find very interesting is now the three groups who presented, all three of them have talked about financial literacy and how important it is. The students think it's the most important thing we can do. Our group was talking about what the associations can do, felt it was something that was very valid. The folks who are involved in educating, the employers, wanted to do something. And in fact, there already is a financial literacy plan out there. In 2012, Donna Harris, sitting right there from Michigan State University, was tasked by the AAVMC to evaluate, research, and create a financial literacy plan that could be used at all veterinary schools in the United States. It's out there. I don't know if any school wants to use it, but it is out there.
It's a function of getting it in the hands of every student, every pre-veterinary student, and everybody in the room.
It's a 4-year plan for teaching veterinary students about financial literacy. 4 years, every year.
So just for my benefit, Donna, Mary Beth says it's out there. It's out where?
It was, go ahead.
It's in a white paper that AAVMC commissioned me to do. So Anne McCabe has it. It's an AAVMC property, and we have to relook at it because it's been 4 or 5 years. But one of the things to think about is that since some of these programs are already out there and were part of the recommendations, I've not looked at these programs since because I've been tasked to do other things, but there might be some metrics now to evaluate some of these programs so we can, that's what several people have asked me, are there some metrics out there that will evaluate the outcomes assessment once these programs are administered? There weren't then, there might be now. So it'd be worth looking into before we just leap into a particular program.
Thank you. Other comments or input? Let's go right over to our corner. Yes, Chris.
A comment and a question, really. The comment is, I think, to probably tell I'm from the UK. I would encourage you to have a look at what the Royal College does with the professional development phase for Year 1 graduates in the UK, which is building a framework so people aren't left floundering in the wilderness, and the regulatory body has input into that. So that's just a comment. My second is a question, and maybe I'm being dumb about alternative career tracks. Because I'm not aware that these alternative careers are saying we haven't got employees. So unless we're looking to displace employees that are not veterinarian trained in other industries, I'm struggling to understand how this influences the debt to income ratio.
One of the things that is not recognized, and it's a bias across society, is you are pigeonholed as soon as you're identified as a DVM. And there are a lot of career opportunities out there that a DVM is highly qualified for, but it's not even listed as a qualification or preferred. Nobody thinks, oh, great, a DVM comes with this skill set. I mean, we have to think outside the box. We deal with multiple species. We have multiple clinical skills. So part of it's just increasing the pie altogether as to what those job opportunities are. It doesn't mean we're displacing another DVM from a potential career opportunity.
Can I make a comment just from a federal standpoint?
Yes. Shauna, I can hear your voice. Microphone, Shauna, please. Thank you.
There's other feds in the room, but I think it's 30 to 40% of all of my agency is eligible to retire today. It doesn't mean they're doing it, but they are actually eligible to retire. So our upper management is terrified, and has been for about the past 5 years, of this mass exodus once people recovered from 2006, that literally we're going to have this mass exodus. So it's going to cause the internal people to move up, which is going to create a lot of opening vacancies, which is where the upcoming need and the succession planning within at least my federal agency is where that push is coming from.
Thank you, Shauna.
I just want to remind everybody, it came out of our group as well, as we're talking about not just MPH and federal veterinarians and things like that. We're talking about everybody that's in non-clinical practice. And it came up that maybe the nomenclature that we're using is incorrect. Maybe alternative career paths is not correct because it maybe has a negative connotation. But a lot of us in this room are not clinically practicing veterinary medicine at this point, but we have good jobs with good benefits, et cetera, and what I'm told is those jobs are out there for veterinarians, and it's a function of telling the students that.
Just out of curiosity, all put your hands down. Put your hands up if you're not practicing clinical medicine right now. I'm going to say at least half, maybe 60%. Did I get that wrong? Interesting. Okay, other input in terms of what you've seen. Can you add or improve the ideas that you had up in here? This young lady in the second table.
I guess just to add to the alternative career we're calling now, I'm applying for some alternative situations. I'm noticing, I don't know if we can draw from this, but I'm noticing a lot of across the board RNs seem to be very well respected in these sorts of positions and qualified. More so than I am. So I was wondering if we can somehow draw from what they're doing or how they're marketing themselves. Because I feel like we have a very similar, obviously, in some ways more advanced skill set than them. I'm applying for jobs that they would be qualified for and not getting.
So if I could just address that. I don't have a simple answer for you. It's not black and white. But I'm wondering how many of you are familiar with the Zubiquity movement that's out there, right? So for years and years as a preventive health veterinarian, we've said veterinarians are very important at the table because 75% of emerging infectious diseases are coming from animals to people. And, what we've heard from the physicians is, you're talking about doom and gloom. How is that relevant to me? And sort of the Zubiquity movement has been more about, oh my gosh, veterinarians are treating things on their clinical or in their clinics that impact people. And so, again, there's not necessarily a black and white answer, but to your point, for many, many years, we've been trying to ensure that our physician colleagues and our One Health colleagues understand the value of the DVM degree. Part of that's on us, a big part of that. And so there's not a simple answer other than we have to be at those tables where we're talking about translation of what we're doing in our clinics and how it's relevant to human health. I know the AVMA, obviously, for many years has been doing a lot of work in terms of educating the government on job descriptions and where a veterinarian is very much qualified, maybe even the most qualified, but it's not part of what's listed. And so I don't have a simple answer for you other than kudos to you for continuing to apply for those positions and to continue doing that, because that's the only way, that I think we're going to continue to make progress.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
This is just related to the last one on the federal agencies and related to that, and to get back to this question, I think one of the things there's so much emphasis right now on clinical practice and a lot of the curriculums that those soft skills and those outside the box skills are what make you successful in some of those other areas. So if that's not being offered or being told at the beginning of what you might need to gain during that, you might not be setting that person up to do as well as applying for some of those other careers because they've been focusing so much on clinical, and sometimes those soft skills and some of those other exposures are what they're looking for to translate those types of things.
Thank you. Time for a couple more questions. Let's go to the lady with the red, I think. Yes, ma'am. I like to give these guys a good workout. And after that, who wants to go next? So let's go to that gentleman right at the back in the white shirt afterwards. Okay, yes, ma'am.
All right, so I'm an alternative career veterinarian, and my job is pretty much made up. I'm a veterinarian who works on the marketing team at a bank. Pretty sure that didn't exist before. And so I think that the conversation around this alternative career is to destigmatize and also to inspire it and say, I don't know, is that a good job for a veterinarian? Go try it and see if it works, and inspire, especially as we have this new wave of technology coming into our field, and especially with a lot of non-veterinary, a lot of the entrepreneurs out there see pet health issues and they're starting these tech companies. Well, those are awesome opportunities for veterinarians to get involved. So it's not just taking the place and filling the spots, it's creating positions and looking at different new avenues that we never imagined possible for a veterinarian to be involved with and to get excited about, and to change the way that pet health care is done by not just encouraging clinical practice, but giving the skills and the public speaking skills. You know, I was interviewing at a bank with the president of the bank, and the thing I pull out of my back pocket to get the job with my public speaking skills is being a high school rodeo queen. Like, that was never taught to me in vet school, whereas it could be, because we are in front of the public, we are speaking and having media training. You know, you have the cameraman showing up at your practice, asking you about heat stroke and those animals. Why aren't we preparing them with a skill set that can be used across all of these? Give them a skill set that can go into all of these variety of paths along the way.
Okay, we're talking a lot about other careers, non-clinical careers. Just remind me how that impacts debt to income ratio.
So those jobs typically have higher salaries and good benefits.
Stable benefits.
Yep.
Stable benefits.
If they're public service, it puts you in place for the 10-year, and then you get the rest of your.
So they're higher paying jobs in general.
Yes, but they allow the public loan student forgiveness system. So for
I think the gentleman with the white shirt at the back was going to be next. Real quick.
Quick comment, just not to reinvent the wheel, good comments about internships, but the AVMA already has, if you go to their policy page on the website, fairly robust guidelines for internships.
Thank you. We've got time for one more. You're pointing down this gentleman with the check shirt there. Yes, sir.
I'll add to what you just said. AHA also certifies internships, and granted, it's just AHA practices, but as we look at trying to figure out a way to make it more robust across the board, we can look at what y'all already have put together, as well as what AHA is working on.
Okay, so I'm hearing on several occasions it's there, but it's not being used a lot. We've heard that several times in terms of these presentations. So there's a big message to take away for tomorrow for each of the teams. So I'm going to get you to thank this team and the whole team